Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
And another depressing week of 49ers talk. Even in OTAs, you have complaints.
Well, the old Madden curse could happen. You never know.
The Madden curse? Oh,
yeah, even though they've lost.
Sakes.
That's what I when they said that, I'm thinking, okay, you lost 3 Super Bowls. You lost 4 conference championships. I'm not concerned about a Madden curse right now. Literally.
Yeah. You and your Madden curse. Why don't you just go play ball? Yeah. Yeah, it's like the 49ers, they pose for all the pictures. They're on all the covers and the whole thing. And you don't win.
Yeah.
No, you don't win.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, been a long time. I mean, the 49ers are the equivalent of twice a prince. Trivia question, who finished second in the Belmont Stakes 31 lanes back? Twice a prince. That's the 49ers. Twice a prince.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if you had a less tradition as a franchise and you won the NFC 2 or 3 times in the last decade, I think you'd be very happy with that. But when you've won 5 Super Bowls, you're not very happy with it.
What's the difference between finishing second and finishing 32nd?
Not much.
Other than draft picks.
Not much.
There you go. All right, so just kidding.
For some teams, you win the conference, though. You'd think it's the greatest thing known to man.
Yeah,
Atlanta Falcons don't forget that they won the conference. They forget about that other thing that happened.
They have a parade. Never forget when the Hartford Whalers actually won a round in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It'd be Quebec. Then they lost in the 7th game to Montreal on an overtime goal by, who the heck was it? Claude Lemieux.
Oh, jeez.
Right. And they had a parade for the team. I'm like going, really? We're a little desperate here, aren't we? All right, so let's start with the U.S. Open. And the drama was great. Man, that course drives you nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel like you've hit a really good shot, and it rolls off the green. Okay. I mean, and that's not a Bill Core, Ben Crenshaw deal. All the waste areas, now they're the ones that put that in, the waste areas. But the drama between DeChambeau and McIlroy, it's too bad they weren't in the final pairing together. That was incredible to see. And McIlroy is not a guy that messes around when he's out there. He gets up and he hits.
Yeah.
And I think that has nothing to do with the last 2 short putts he missed. I think he just missed them. And it's hard to explain a guy that was pouring in 20, 25 footers and then suddenly misses, I think it was total of 6 feet, 2 inches worth of putts. Like, and that just has to be galling because I'm sure he's sitting there. I'm always a big believer in somebody winning. And DeChambeau hit some big shots and he won. But I'm sure when McIlroy was sitting in the locker room, he felt like he lost. He did not come out. He did not come out and talk to the media afterward. Which is something he rarely does. I mean, in other words, he never misses. That's my point.
Yeah.
I mean, during all this LIV versus PGA, he was always the guy up front. Just so everybody knows, it is not a requirement on the PGA Tour or with the USGA to do media. It is not a requirement. I think people think it is. It is not. It's like Brooks Koepka's like, all right, great. Well, why is he not doing media? Well, he's surly, doesn't want to. All right. Well, he doesn't want to, but he doesn't have to either. I mean, you're all independent contractors, essentially. And that's, I think that's one that people don't quite, know what the rules are. Now, is it preferred they come out? Yeah, it's preferred they come out. And this is where you have to give credit where credit is due to some of the guys in the past. Let's start with Greg Norman. Greg Norman had a 6-shot lead at the Masters. What was it, 1996? Something like that.
Yep.
And let's face it, he blew it. And Nick Faldo won. And standing under a magnolia, he met with the media for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and took questions about what had to be one of the most difficult days of his life. I mean, he walked onto the first tee with a 6-shot lead at the Masters in a tournament that he had been dominating and lost. And now we move ahead to Wingfoot. Is it 2006? Phil Mickelson?
Yep.
Where he's got, a 2-shot lead
Yep.
over Colin Montgomery. And Quigley was there too, who ended up winning the tournament. Because Montgomery kind of botched up the 18th hole too. People forget that. And he hit one to the beer tent. And then tried to go for the green on the second shot instead of playing a conservative shot. I mean, look, should he have hit 3-wood off the tee? Yeah. He hit driver. Okay. Well, that's... And he stood before the media when he was done and said, I'm trying to remember, I'm paraphrasing, I'm the stupidest guy in the face of the earth or something like that, or the dumbest guy, something, right? But he did it. And what had to be as bitter a loss as he's had in his career. Remember, for all the Payne Stewart talk about the 25 years, who's the guy he beat on the 18th, on the 72nd hole? It was Phil Mickelson. Okay, so this guy had been close. And I think he won the Masters in 2006. So he was looking to, at this point, Mickelson had won a Masters in 4, a PGA in 5, the Masters in 6, and he was going for the U.S. Open, trying to win the first 2 legs of the Grand Slam. And this guy's right there. He's right there. And he botched it, and he went and met with the media when he was done. Didn't have to. But he did. And so what Rory did yesterday, which is rare for him, he always has been a guy, and because I had him on the show when I covered the U.S. Open at Oakmont, I had him on the show.
Yep.
He wasn't good. He was great. He was really terrific to talk to. And then, so there's 2 ways of looking at it. One is others in the past have had difficult defeats and still met with the media, took the questions. Now, are half the questions ones that have to be asked? Yes. Are some of the questions thought-provoking? Yes. And are some just dumb beyond the pale of dumb? Yes. You and I have sat in enough press conferences over the years where that the ones that have to be asked are the ones that are the most common by a wide margin.
By far.
The intriguing ones are like, oh, wow, that's a heck of a question, right? And then there are others like, oh, God, get us through this one.
I got to write a story that nobody else wrote, so let's figure something out. And we haven't figured something out. Let's just ask this.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So, but these guys in the past have taken, and it's not, look, you're in pain. You're in pain. And so it's rare that he does that. As for DeChambeau, his relationship with the crowd, and you got to remember, like, there's only 3 times, essentially, that crowds that size in this country see him play. The Masters, the PGA, and the U.S. Open. He's on the LIV Tour. And because he's on the LIV Tour, sure, people can go over and see him play in the LIV Tour, but not crowds of this size. And he's out there playing to him, the whole deal. It's like, oh, my goodness. I mean, and look, remember I talked about at the beginning of the show about Aaron Judge. I think the Red Sox just stole another base. Hold on a second.
Yep.
Yeah, that's 10. But he hit a gigantic home run last night that cleared the monster seats. Did not land on Lansdowne Street. I think at the top of the buildings between Lansdowne and the Mass Pike. And it was a tremendous shot. And, of course, it's celebrated as one of the great home runs of the day, even though they lost 9-3. So if he didn't hit the home run, it would have been 9-2.
Yep. Solo shot, beginning of the game.
Yeah. Right. But that brings up my point about Bryson DeChambeau. People love the long ball.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Love the long ball.
Absolutely.
And Aaron Judge hit an absolute bomb, which was great. You know, it's, I mean, high, deep, gone, the whole deal. It was like, it's majestic. Like you are awestruck by the power. Well, that's Bryson DeChambeau. You are awestruck by the sheer power of the guy. I mean, every time you turn around, it's another 325-yard plus drive. Just like Rory. Rory is tremendous power. And with a little bit of Seve Ballesteros mixed in there, they, especially Bryson, not so much Rory, they have the ability to hit the ball in the spots you're like going, oh, how's he going to get out of that one? It's like, okay. But the power of it, like he is hitting the ball into spots that other people don't hit the ball into because he's hitting it further. And people love the long ball.
Yeah.
Well, he hits the long ball. I don't know how far. How far was he out in one shot? It was like 175 yards or something like that. He's hitting pitching wedge. Pitching wedge? Real? Pitching wedge? I'd be like going, okay, do I have a forward? Like, holy moly. And look, he hit the clutch shots when he needed to hit clutch shots. You know, and to hit a bunker shot like that, because long bunker shots are difficult. And hit a bunker shot like that, and then he drops the putt and wins. I mean, those are winning shots. We could talk about Rory McIlroy losing. Okay, I understand that. But think of the winning shots that Bryson DeChambeau hit. He hit winning shots. He drives the green when he needed to, and it held. And it held. And because it held, he ended up getting a birdie on that hole. He just missed getting an eagle, but he had a birdie on the hole. Well, you know, Rory didn't drive the green. He hit the green square on. The difference was he didn't have the height on the shot, the apex of it, and it ended up going all the way back, and so he had to scramble. Well, DeChambeau was able to hit a high, I think it was a 3-wood.
Yep.
He didn't use driver. I think he hit 3-wood. And he knocks on the green, it holds, and he gives him a 2-putt birdie. I'm like, well, okay. I mean, those are winning shots. Now it's rare that somebody shoots over par and wins, and he did. But he hit winning shots when he had to hit winning shots, and that was the important part of it. Rory hit a lot of great shots. I mean, great shots, but he didn't hit winning shots when he had to knock it in from in close. And that was the problem. Yeah. At least that's what I saw. I mean, I don't know what you saw. I think you're watching reruns of Little Sheldon or whatever it is.
I have not seen that show one time.
I'm seriously, I sincerely worry about you. Yeah.
Nobody was watching the old UFL championship yesterday. I'm pretty sure people that...
Oh, did they play it yesterday?
I was going to say that. I was literally going to say, I think people that partook in the game didn't even know it was yesterday. They did.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was Tom Brady's broadcasting debut, I believe.
Oh, did? Oh,
yeah.
Well.
I did not see much of it.
I saw none of it. Who played in it?
I didn't even know the two teams. Yep. I put it on for about maybe 10 minutes.
See, that's the difference between this and the competitive USFL in the 80s.
Absolutely.
83, 84, 85, and ESPN was critical to the success of it early on. ESPN was looking for programming, and the USFL was perfect for what they wanted to do. And I thought ESPN's coverage of the USFL in 83, 84, 85 was tremendous. I mean, it was tremendous. It really was. Lynn Swan, Jim Simpson. I mean, Keith Jackson doing the USFL championship game with Lynn Swan. Really? That was, and they developed stars. To their credit, they developed stars. Bobby Hebert. Now they were able to get Anthony Carter signed. Kelvin Bryant, Chuck Fusina, Penn State's own Chuck Fusina, Sam Mills. They were able to sign Reggie White, played for Memphis. Mike Rozier for Pittsburgh, Doug Flutie, Herschel Walker. Start going through the long list. And they put on a really, Steve Young, Jim Kelly. I mean, they put on quite a show. And I thought the USFL games in the 80s were entertaining, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to watch. I enjoyed watching it. These games, no. You feel like you're watching. You may not have been watching the NFL in the 80s, but you thought you were watching something that looked pretty good. Steve Spurrier coaching the Tampa Bay Bandits, fun, exciting. Right, that's where he put the fun and gun in before he went to Florida. But see, I feel like when you're watching the UFL, and I saw a couple of games early, you still feel like you're watching minor league football.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's a big reason why you look at the XFL merged with the other league, USFL.
The USFL,
yeah, made it UFL. I think that's a big reason why. It didn't seem like it was I don't want to say it wasn't a professional. I mean, these guys are getting a chance to play and showcase their talents, but I still feel like there's a lot missing about it. I think you're absolutely right. It's not like the old days of the USFL where you saw guys that were clear-cut Hall of Famers play. And Steve Young played in the USFL. Reggie White played in the USFL. Herschel Walker, when he was healthy, I think was
Jim Kelly.
Incredible. Jim Kelly, Doug Flutie. I mean, these guys, absolutely. And you're not seeing that with this league. You're not seeing that whatsoever. You're not seeing. Could there be a diamond in the rough somewhere? Yeah, maybe, but there's not going to be that clear-cut competition. I think we're at the point now
Oh, the Birmingham Stallions beat the
that Stallion
St. Louis Brahmas. Does that sound right? Or San Antonio Brahmas? Right?
Yeah. Yep.
So Birmingham won last year, right?
Yes.
And the Brahmas won the XFL Conference Championship. Birmingham was the USFL Conference Champion. And then they squared off before, it looks here like 82 people. No? Yes, no, maybe.
Probably.
I'm kidding you.
It was there 85. It's. I think we're at a point now where you don't want to say it's monopoly, but I think at this point people are so used to one organization, and we're not just talking NFL. We're talking basketball too. We're talking baseball. We're talking everything else.
People don't want multiple leagues.
No.
Okay.
No.
I've seen, except for Major League Baseball, I've seen so many rival leagues. I remember when the ABA was up against the NBA. Oh, and like the ABA, they were able to sign a couple of guys. Like Rick Barry came over. He led the NBA in scoring with the Warriors, and he went over and played for Oakland in the ABA, and then eventually for the New York Nets. Virginia, and then the New York Nets. They're the ones that signed Julius Erving. They're the ones that signed Moses Malone. They're the ones that signed David Thompson. They're the ones that signed Artis Gilmore. They're the ones that had Connie Hawkins. Okay? And they had the red, white, and blue basketball. They had in and out TV contracts, but they had some really good players. But the NBA's pathway to finally getting a toehold was when they finally merged with the ABA. They went through a rough patch right after the merger, and then the merger was in 76, so 76, 77 was the first season where Denver, Indiana, San Antonio, and San Antonio, Denver, Indiana, and who's the fourth team? The Nets.
The Nets, New Jersey, yeah,
New York, the Nets.
New York Nets.
Yep.
At that time.
All right. Merged in. And the end of the 70s, like, okay, the league had a drug problem. But then it was only 3-4 years after that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson came in and essentially saved the league. But they saved a unified league. They saved a unified league. You look at the NHL. The WHA gave them a pretty good run for it. For a long time. The WHA had trouble, keeping teams, they had the usual financial problems in Chicago and other places, Los Angeles and so forth. Teams moving around and trying to get a toehold. But they caused a problem for the NHL. And you can see the first signs of the problem right out of the gate when the NHL Team Canada in the Summit Series played the Soviet Union. Now, Team Canada played without Bobby Orr, who was hurt. He had just had knee surgery. But Bobby Hull, who was in the prime of his career, nope, not going to use him because he had signed with the Winnipeg Jets of the WHA. Well, the NHL took a little while to get going. They finally won the series 4-3 with one tie. Paul Henderson scored the game-winning goal, and Phil Esposito was tremendous during the course of that series. But that told you right away there was an issue. And then Gordie Howe's over there with his sons, Mark and Marty, playing with Houston, then with New England. And they developed some stars. Guy Lafleur came over at one point and was playing with Quebec. Like, whoa, okay. Well, finally, they'd had enough of this. And, of course, what they're doing is when you have rival leagues, what do rival leagues do? They drive up salaries.
Salaries, absolutely.
Right? Well, a guy like Harold Ballard, who was the owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs, you don't want to keep paying salaries, right?
Right.
Didn't want to pay anybody anyway. And they finally sat down and they hammered out a merger. And they got the Whalers, the Winnipeg Jets, the Edmonton Oilers still there today, and the Quebec Nordique. Quebec's now Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
The Whalers are now Carolina. Believe it or not, the Jets are now Utah. That's who they are. Edmonton's still there. You're like, the Winnipeg Jets are there. They're the Atlanta Thrashers, who are an expansion team. That's what started at least the NHL to get back on more of an even footing. But they had, 3 lockouts? And since the last lockout, the NHL's been thriving to its credit. They've expanded at the right time. I think Gary Bettman's handled things really well. But in the 70s, they were a mess. And fans were like, all right, because they want to see the best players playing against each other. And then, of course, there's the NFL. The AFL, in the 60s, the AFL's out there. John Hadel's throwing the ball all over the place. Len Dawson's throwing it all over the place. Joe Namath's throwing it all over the place. Darryl LaMonica's throwing it all over the place. Babe Pirelli's throwing the ball all over the place, right? And they're fun, entertaining. George Blanda, they're a fun, entertaining league. Meanwhile, the NFL is going along like 3 yards in a cloud of Chicago Bears dust. Okay. The Bears in 63 beat the Giants in the championship game 14-10. The Chargers beat the Patriots 51-10, and my late friend Bob Meininger played in that game for the then San Diego Chargers. And and the Chargers were like, they wanted to play the Bears badly. They wanted to play the Bears. And I'm telling you right now, I know the Bears' defense was phenomenal. Doug Buffone and all those guys. This is before they got Butkus. And Ed Obradovich, Doug Buffone. But, man, I would have liked to have seen the difference in styles in that game.
Absolutely.
Between the Bears and the Chargers. I kind of wonder if the Chargers may have had a shot to win that thing. But you go for 10 years. They needed a merger. When Al Davis became the commissioner briefly of the AFL, he put together the strategy and said, we're going to sign their quarterbacks. Okay, they signed John Brody. They signed Roman Gabriel. And the NFL's in there like, whoa, what's going on here? To future contracts. Okay. And that the NFL came to the table and said, hey. And Davis was furious because Davis said, we've got him. We've got him.
Yeah.
Right? But the merger, now other leagues came and just went away. The WFL went away.
Sure.
Right? The USFL went away. They got $3 out of it, but they went away.
Yeah.
And that was the antitrust suit.
Yeah. And the World Football League. And it had its popularity for a short time there, I think. I think there were guys that attracted fans. I think Kerwin Bell was a guy. London Monarchs team as a whole. You had Jason Garrett, Judd Garrett, and it played there. So I think at that time, they went away, but at that time, I think the audience was at least not necessarily what it is today. But I think
the WFL had a TV contract with TVS, which meant that it had to be syndicated. Kind of tough to do that. You're kind of cobbling together stations when you do that. I think Eddie Einhorn was the one in charge of it at that time. But the Detroit Wheels, that's what they were called, they couldn't pay their guys. Okay, no offense, I find that to be an issue.
Yeah, just a bit.
But my point is people want to see the best playing against the best. That's what they want, the best against the best. Rival leagues they split the talent pool. And because it splits the talent pool, it hurts the overall product. So when we talk about monopolies, you and I can sit there and form a football league.
Sure.
Okay. And we can compete against the NFL because the business is football. Okay, the business is football. Well, the National Football League happens to be one of the businesses of football. Well, it turns out at the moment they're the only business of football. Right? Now, the UFL isn't. Right. But that's what people want to see. They didn't want to watch Steve Young and Jim Kelly play in the USFL. They wanted to see them play in the NFL. And Kelly goes to the Bills, and suddenly they've got some hope. And Steve Young went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and hope disappeared quickly. Then when he went to the 49ers, he had to back up Montana, and then he finally took and threw Montana out of there because he's a bum.
He was terrible.
See, it's about time you admitted these things.
Yeah, he was.
God, I thought Montana.
Often injured.
I thought Montana was the
best. Best I ever saw before Brady.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. And he was a prime example of a guy, and Drew Brees is another one, obviously. Prime example of a guy that you're going to be a quarterback. You don't necessarily need a rocket arm. You need precision. You need accuracy. And they both had it. They didn't have a strong arm. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was strong enough.
But people want to see the best against the best.
Absolutely.
When the USFL was integrated into the NFL, suddenly it's like, hey, we get to watch Reggie White with the Philadelphia Eagles. You get to see Jim Kelly with the Buffalo Bills, Steve Young, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers first. Mm-hmm. Herschel Walker. Right? Only Herschel Walker's out there playing ball with the Dallas Cowboys.
One of the most famous trade in NFL history. He was on the receiving the other end of it, but without a doubt built a dynasty in Dallas.
Yeah. I remember, when was that trade, 89, 90?
Yeah, it was 89 going into the 90 year.
89 going into the 90 year.
Season, because they got the draft picks that they ended up using.
I'm doing this show at the time on the station. I mean, I know we're doing a podcast for Seven Mountains, but this one of the stations they own. And I had Peter King on, and he was in Minnesota right when they'd made the trade. It was a very intriguing segment. And I set it up to have him on the show just from the training camp tour.
Yeah.
I said, what do you think of this? And he says, Steve, Dallas may be set for a decade.
They sure were.
Yeah.
I think people forget, and obviously everybody remembers the big three, but they had the best offensive line in football, without question at that time. Best defense in football at that time, and part of that was built with what they were able to bring in, and that's just they were just absolutely incredible. And a lot of that was their later picks. Obviously, Emmett was a first-round pick, but you remember they used the first overall pick that they got in that trade and drafted Russell Maryland, who was good.
He's a good player.
But he wasn't he wasn't a Hall of Famer by any means.
Well, it wasn't Randy White.
No, was not. Was not the other White you just named a little bit ago either. Probably best defensive player, pass rusher that I ever saw in Reggie White. No, Bruce Smith's in there too.
Yeah. So people want to see the best against the best.
Absolutely.
I mean, tonight you'll watch the NBA Finals, and there's no split anywhere. The Celtics will go out there tonight with Tatum and Brown and Porzingis and White and Holiday and Pritchard and Hauser and Horford and so forth. And Dallas will go out there with Derek Lively and with Doncic and Kyrie Irving and P.J. Washington. And, you'll see the best against the best.
And Lively has played well, too. He's played real well.
Oh, Derek's played very well. I mean, I know yesterday was Father's Day, but I was thinking yesterday about Derek's mom.
Absolutely.
And I'm trying to think, the last time I talked to her was November.
It's been a bit, yeah. It was probably beginning of the year for me.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year meaning beginning of 2023, I should clarify.
Yeah, no, the last time I talked to her was like November, whatever, last year. And at that point, she was going out to Dallas. And she'd been going back and forth.
Yep.
She was going out to Dallas to be with him. Yeah. I know when she passed, and I said this on the show, I said, look, he said, it's awful she's no longer with us because she was just a great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kathy was just an unbelievable person.
Helped bring a good fan experience, a great fan experience to the German side.
But she was also a really good player,
and
too.
There's no doubt. Not a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets lost in everything, right?
Yeah.
And I said, sometimes you have to look at the positives. I said, I'll give you a couple positives. I said, at least she got to watch her son grow up.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least she got to see her son graduate from high school. Mm-hmm. She got to see her son then play a year at Duke, and she made a lot of trips down there. Mm-hmm. She got to see her son drafted in the first round, and she got to see her son play in the NBA and play well.
And had a debut game that was incredible.
Yep.
I remember that.
I said she at least got to see all that, and for him, at least he knows his mom got to see him do that.
Yeah.
I mean, now, we always want more.
Yeah.
And we always want more. But but sometimes you got to take the positives out of something. And I give Derek credit. I think Derek has handled it all with incredible grace. And he's played very well. And he's shown that in the playoffs and in the finals. That game is coming up tonight. All right. Once again, your Phillies. Putting on another show for the ages. And by the way, it looks like they get Trey Turner back today.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
And Brian Reynolds has a 14-game hitting streak for the Pirates. Let's at least make sure we get that in there. But, I mean, yesterday, you got fighter jets, you got hit by pitches, things like that. Back. The manager gets thrown out and some temper tantrum. Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I wasn't sure Friday night was ever going to end. That game goes extra innings. They go into a rain delay.
Yeah. Well, these are your people.
That's great crowds all 3 days in Baltimore. That's the one thing I would say. And that's just, seeing Camden Yards packed is special. I will always.
And some of them are Orioles fans. All right, so
one of the best parks in baseball, the park that I think.
So too. I love that park.
I think the park that paved the way for a lot of what you see now.
Oh, no question.
Without question.
So the Yankees, who just were beaten 2 out of 3 by the Red Sox, are a game and a half up on the Orioles, and they'll start a series tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah.
In Baltimore. And then the Red Sox are 12 back after taking 2 out of 3. I was talking to Tim Kirchin Thursday, Friday? Maybe that was Thursday. And I said, what's the biggest? I said, anything surprised you so far? He says, the fact the Indians continue to play. The Guardians continue to play well. Okay, the Guardians continue to play well. They're playing 638 baseball. They're 44-25. They're 6 games up. He's 5 games up in Kansas City. And by the way, he mentioned the Royals too.
Yeah.
And then the Twins are only 5.5 back.
Yeah.
Seattle. This is a lot of people don't realize. Seattle's winning the West.
Yeah.
They're right now. They are 8.5 games up on the defending champion Texas Rangers.
Yeah, Rangers are 5 games below 500.
Right. The Phillies have the second best record in baseball and the best record in the National League. They're 8 games up on the Braves. And, of course, the Braves have been without Acuna, and they've been under 500 since they lost him. And Washington's 12 back. The Mets are 13.5 back. Boy, if they would just spend some money. But they've actually won. But the Mets have actually won, 5 in a row.
Yeah, ever since Grimace threw the first pitch out, they've been 5-0.
The Brewers are 6.5 up on St. Louis, and Ollie's done a great job with that group. The Cardinals are coming on now.
Yeah, they've got to just get consistent. I think they have the talent to do it. They've just got to stay consistent.
And the Pirates, right? the Pirates are 3 games under, and they're 8 games back. They're tied with Cincinnati, and the Cubs are 8.5 back. It's a pretty tight division.
Yeah, and the Pirate pitching staff has been incredible.
Oh,
really has been just.
I mean, Keller's good. Jones has been tremendous. And Skeens has been everything they could ask for.
Everything he asked for, absolutely.
Right. Dodgers, Mookie Betts, broken hand, fractured hand.
Yeah,
he's out. That's big. And
absolutely.
Because Ohtani's done great things, but you know what? When they made the deal to get Biggio from the Blue Jays, if you take a closer look at the Dodgers, like the guys that they kind of rotate through the lineup and have been a big part of their success, have not played well.
No.
And and because the Dodgers are on the West Coast, we kind of forget that. Like they're winning, and they're the only team in the National League West that's over 500. The Padres are 8 back, the D-backs and the Giants are 8.5 back. Colorado is
pretty
not good.
The other thing, Yamamoto's 6-2, and who knows what his future is this year right now. That's the other part of it with the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, he's a rotator cuff. He's on the 15-day IL. We'll see.
Yep.
They've got Freeman, they got Ohtani, but this is, again, Mookie Betts is such... I'll tell you, Mookie Betts is he is a great player. The day the Red Sox traded him, I'll tell you exactly what I said on this show. I said, I feel like we are looking at the 21st century Red Sox Babe Ruth trade. He was perfect for that city. He was perfect. Beloved, gave back to the community. I mean, everything you could ask for. It was just, and they should have signed him to a long-term deal. That's the part that has bothered Red Sox fans this entire time. Like, okay, I mean, they've been bugged by him. Now, are they a different team at the moment that's built on speed, and it showed against the Yankees and the Phillies? I mean, their speed really came through. And look, the Red Sox have, to their credit, a pretty decent pitching. But Betts is a special kind of player. And losing him in that lineup, that's a big loss for them. That's not just sort of a loss. That's a big loss for the Dodgers. Lift for Life was last week. Took place on Thursday. It was, I think people now know that like Tyseer Denmark is now here at wide receiver. DeJuan Lane is another guy that I was interested to watch. It was good talking and catching up with some of the guys about how they're doing, how they're feeling at this point. They've been going through these workouts, and you know what? It is June, but what I try to take from Lift for Life is, what kind of shape are these guys in? How are they feeling right now? Try to do that through as many conversations as possible. And it's June, but the vibe is exactly where it needs to be. It's exactly where it needs to be. And you can't ask for much more this time of year. And that's just from being around and then talking to guys. I talked to Dennis Sutton. I talked to Devon Ellies. It wasn't at Lift for Life, but I talked to Drew Aller a little bit last week. Your name came up, and the conversation shut down. It was like...
Eyes rolled and everything. I couldn't believe it.
What questions are you asking in the postgame? I don't understand what you're doing.
Couldn't believe it. Eyes rolled, head shakes, man.
But you're just trying to get a feel for what's going on out there.
Absolutely.
And that's all it is. It's not like you sit there and go, "Oh, okay, they're going to be great." And look, you just take it a step at a time. This is another step. Are they in good shape? Yes. Has Julian Fleming improved his speed? Yes. There all these little things that come up that you can at least talk about. I mean, I know that James Franklin's talked about leadership. But there's something about Devon Ellies and Nick Dawkins on each side of the ball that screams leadership. And then I'm going to go over and get a look at the Penn State basketball team this week. You know, I mean, get a chance to watch the transfers and the freshmen for the first time. So I'm going to go over and get a chance to watch them a little bit this week, just kind of get a feel for them at this stage. And, you know, it's always with the understanding that it's June. For example, I'm going down to speak in Johnstown on Thursday night. Okay? And when they asked me about it, they asked if you were available, and I said, sure. And they said, well, don't tell them you're coming down. I said, I don't understand why you're creating such issues.
I'll tell you.
But I'm going to talk to them about what Penn State has. And people think that you're doing the pie in the sky thing when you're talking to people.
Sure.
Right? I'm not. You're just trying to be realistic. Like, okay, this guy can do this, he can do that. Okay, they got to be better here, they got to be better. You tell them that. Right? Like wide receiver. I've told everybody wide receiver. So the key is consistency. I mean, you don't think I stand there and I see the potential of Amari Evans, right? Needed to translate the games, right? Harrison Wallace needs to stay healthy when he's out there. He's outstanding. Julian Fleming's is a pro's pro out there the way he plays the game, right? Sean Clifford, right? You can always tell when quarterbacks need a completion in practice. They'll pick out a guy. He gets picked out a lot, right? Yeah, I want to see what some of the I want to see what Ivy and Johnson do. Right? I want to see what they can do, and see if maybe they can find a spot. What can Denmark do? I've never watched him play. I did not watch the Big 33 game, and I know he's the MVP of it. But I mean, there's all things you want to see when training camp comes up. But the key to me is consistency. Consistency means that you take all those good plays that you see in a practice, and I've seen these guys make some really good plays, some really tough catches, some really big-time plays, right? And have it translate into the games. That's why when you hear Andy Koltanicki talk about the receivers, he's talked about what they can do, and he's been thrilled about it. Okay? Marcus Higgins, right, gets unjustifiable, in my opinion, criticism. Like, you got to be kidding me. Man. I was kidding around with him the other day, and I said, I always tell people, I said, when it comes to execution, a lot of people are in favor of mine. Right? But it's all about executing. You know, are they running the right routes? Are they getting themselves open? Are they starting to make the tough catches? Because you need to have receivers who are not only consistent, but they need to make a tough catch when their quarterback puts it in not exactly the ideal spot.
Right.
Okay. All right. Or there's the so-called 50-50 ball, and you're the one that wins it. And Chris Godwin was tremendous at that. Right? You know, you put the ball up there, Chris Godwin would win it. Jahan Dotson would win it. All right? Because he had the skills, the hand-eye coordination, and the want. Yeah. Right? That makes a difference. The confidence to make that play. And these guys need consistency and confidence. They get the 2 C's. They've got guys that can play at the wide receiver spot. They have it. Right? Now, you're probably watching this and going, oh, come on, Steve. But they do. But to all of you watching the games, you want to see more. And you're exactly right. Everybody wants to see more of the games. So when you say, well, when I see it, true. Right? Well, now, let's see if they can. Now they're all a year older. We've all been through it. Wallace, to his credit, knock on wood, has been healthy. I think he's a difference maker.
Big time.
Okay?
Big time.
Evans, You take the Michigan State game, that long pass he reeled in for 61 yards. The official should have had a little more of a sense of the moment, let him score. But it's all right. All right, but he caught a lot of heck on the sideline. Like, what are you doing? You got to get in. Right? Those are kind of the fun plays that you don't quite get in, but you're going to win the game in a route. But like, he showed the burst and the hands. Clifford shows the hands and has more speed than people realize. So let's just see how it plays out. Confidence, consistency. Consistency, confidence. That's what they need. And they make a few plays early in the season. They're going to take off as a group. Are they going to be the number one group of the Big Ten? I could care less. Just make plays.
Plays help your team win games.
Right. It was like, I think Singleton and Allen are the best combination of running backs in the conference. Okay, great. I just want to see make winning plays. And Katron and Nick have made a lot of winning plays. And then we'll see what Cam Wallace does. We'll see how Quentin Martin fits in. This is going to be a fun thing to watch as to how they fit the pieces together. And I think Andy has a terrific mind, and then we'll see how Tom Allen fits his pieces in together. I think that Penn State made gains in the transfer portal. It wasn't like they weren't, quote, nicked up a little bit in the transfer portal, but the gains versus where they got nicked up, Penn State ended up on the plus side. I mean, look, Harris and Kimber, two really good players. They're going to help out a lot. All right. 1 year removed from being a transfer, a Davian Collins is going to help out a lot. Yeah. So, and I think Fleming's going to help them a lot too. So, now if you want, I can. I'm appealing to the audience. I can keep going here if you don't want to hear about the 49ers. I know you've been subjected to looking at that ridiculous shirt. Was that on some discount somewhere?
Might have been.
Might have been.
Might have been.
Super Bowl 16 champions. Boy, that's an old shirt.
That wouldn't be a discount. That would be a collector's item.
Joe Paterno was at that game.
Really?
Yep. Then Vice President Bush invited him to join him at the Super Bowl.
Nice.
Right? It was snowing to beat the band.
Snowing. I remember that. I remember the weather.
Was snowing to beat the band. And here's the vice presidential motorcade coming in. And, of course, if the vice presidential motorcade is coming in, what does the other traffic have to do?
They have to hold up for it. Yeah.
In a snowstorm.
Yep.
Right? And Joe looked over, I guess, at George H.W. Bush, and he said, Mr. Vice President, he says, I don't think you're helping yourself right now. All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.